All right, I see Coach has joined us. As soon as they give us the go-ahead from the studio, then Coach, you can get started.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As soon as I throw it close, we're good to go.
All right. So like everything, this is a unique press conference to have, and excited to be in game week more than anything, and looking forward to watching our team play and compete. This group has endured a lot, going back to when we started up in January, and going through a really, really good off season with Coach Thunder and his staff, the leadership that we've put together, working with our guys on growing as leaders and connecting, and then get into spring ball, and things are exciting and going good. And then all of a sudden, March 7th, we break for spring break. We'll see these guys in 10 days. And next thing you know, it's June. And they've been through a lot, staff and players. Come back and I thought did a tremendous job with all the things that were in place with the COVID protocol. And as you know, when the students returned, things changed, and having the pause in our camp when we did. And, whether it was positive tests or contact tracing, but to finally be on the other side of that, and to have our team back, I'm very proud of the resiliency of this group and the way they've stuck together through all the unknowns, the ups and downs of are we playing, are we not playing, having to move our opening game back, all the civil unrest. The team just keeps fighting and fighting together. And I think that's one thing that NC State, in my opinion, does extremely well. Obviously, going back to Jimmy V, but never quit. And I think that resiliency is something that this team takes personally and has done a tremendous job. And so they're very excited to be on the other side of this with a game in sight, and look forward to playing our first of 3 in-state opponents. And this is a game that goes back. It's the longest continuous rivalry between 2 ACC schools and the 3rd longest in the nation. It's a game that's been played since 1910, and a game that's gone back and forth in my tenure here. And we have great respect for Wake Forest and for Coach Clausen and his staff. And obviously they have the benefit of playing one game and having that game under their belt. As we all know, people talk about the improvements teams can make from week 1 to week 2. And I know that's something that they have as an advantage. Looking at them as a football team, they have their systems. They're very sound. They do not beat themselves. They don't turn the football over. They create a lot of takeaways defensively. They don't get penalized. They put themselves in positions that way to win games. And they're a very unique style of zone read offense with the mesh and the RPO game, and how it works timing-wise in the backfield. They lost a lot of skill on offense, but the kids that they have showed a lot of athleticism in that game. Their tailbacks are returning players with a lot of statistics behind them and have good speed and strength. I think they have a good blend there at their tailback position. You could see the athleticism of Donovan Green, number 7, and Roberson, number 5, and I think found a playmaker in the slot with Morin. So you can kind of see who they've replaced their playmakers with and what those guys are capable of. As always, their offensive line plays well together, and they play very, very up-tempo offense. The no huddle has a lot of different versions in college football. This is, in my opinion, one of the fastest of those that we'll face. Defensively, very good front 7, very experienced front 7, and they showed a little more depth in their D-line than they have in the past in that rotation. But they return a lot of guys that have made a lot of plays, and obviously Basham is a player that we have great respect for. Not that we don't, the rest of them we do, but he is a very tough, big, athletic defensive end that anchors their front. Their linebackers play downhill. They understand their scheme. They've got good pressures that they run and disguise well. And then on third down, they do a lot of different things. And they're different each week in their approach. And I think they're very sound in how they attack offenses. So, like any game, it comes down to complementary football. And for us, we need to take care of the football on offense. We need to stay on the field. We need to be physical and do the things that we can do and take advantage of the plays that are there. Defensively, you have to do a good job of getting off the field, and I think any tempo offense struggles when they can't get their first down, and it's just managing that throughout the game and creating some short fields and field position. Last year in our game with them, we were pinned inside the 10 multiple times by their punter. We turned the football over. We didn't give ourselves a chance. And in any game, I think it starts with you not beating yourself. And that's a huge point of emphasis for this football team. And I look forward to watching them go out there and do it. I'm excited. We announced our captains yesterday, and those 4 young men have great respect from their teammates. And a lot of hard work has gone into them earning that responsibility. And I know they're excited about what comes with it. And obviously you also saw Isaiah Moore was put into the #1 jersey yesterday, and super excited for him. He's earned that. He represents our football team as a person, as a student, as an athlete. And what he's doing right now in our community as well is just a standout individual that's been through a lot, that has earned a lot of respect, not just on our football team, but on our campus. And so with that, game one to me, it's about getting out with these guys and letting them play and have a good time doing it, be physical and executing at a high level and playing complementary football. We have a very good specialist group that has to be a big part of this game for us, and special teams play a huge role. And as we've seen watching college football here, there's been some very sloppy games. There's been some very clean games. And obviously we want to be one of those teams that goes out and executes. And it's going to be fun to see these guys this week in practice. This will be probably the biggest group we've had back. We're about 95% of as far as having all of our guys back now. Some of them are still out from injury, but most of our roster is able to practice and compete right now. And so for us as coaches, it'll be fun to have those guys all out on the field together again. With that, I'll open it up.
All right, Jonas Pope, you want to start us off?
Hey, Coach, thanks for your time. You guys make it a game week, but unfortunately you started with some bad news announcing this morning that Lewis won't be playing with you guys. Was that a continuing from last year's injury or something that happened at camp, or was it COVID related? Could you give us what happened and why he's sitting out this year?
Yeah, it's not COVID related. It's just a continuation of what he's been dealing with. And so for Lewis, the best thing for him was to become a coach. He's excited about that. He's been around the guys every day, and he brings great energy to the group and has tremendous respect from the coaches and his teammates. And that's kind of where it is.
Aaron Beard.
Hey, Dave. I was curious. I'm sure you've been watching games and observing what's gone on from afar. Have you been in contact with some of your friends in coaching to kind of say, hey, what's it been like with everything going in, what to watch for, what the little headaches you're going to have to deal with maybe compared to a normal time?
Not since the games have started. We talked a lot in the summer and through fall camp. A lot of the conversations were really about practice. There were so many changes in how we were going to practice that I had a lot of conversations with colleagues in the business. But, the game day aspect of it, it's pretty straightforward on what we can and can't do. And obviously all the testing that takes place, there's a lot of things that are just standardized for us. But that's where it's been for me.
Joe Giglio, what you got?
Hey, Dave, you mentioned the resiliency of this group. What's realistic to expect from Tim and the offense given all of the off-season obstacles?
Yeah, I think it comes down to you're not going to see the whole playbook, obviously. I think as we got into training camp, we were able to install a lot. Those 2 weeks where they kind of backed everybody down in the summer, where we had like the 20-hour rule, we were allowed to do a lot of walkthroughs. And so he's able to get a lot of things coached in that situation. And we were starting to install quite a bit. And once we hit the slowdown and lost a lot of guys during that 8-day window, it is really a time where he settled in on what do we need to have, at the beginning of the year, and really repping those things as guys came back. So I think you're going to see the offense grow as the season goes. It's not going to be a deal where in game one, everything that he has, he can do. And I think part of that will be his personnel as he goes forward too, just seeing how guys respond on game day. And you think you know who your guys are going into the first game, but as we all know, some guys all of a sudden will emerge on game day as a playmaker, and that will change some of the things that you do. But it will be different than, the whole thing's different, really, how he calls it and the different things he can do within the system. So you'll see some formation similarities, but the system itself will be a lot different.
Andrew Schnicker.
You talked about Isaiah Moore getting the #1 and what that means. And obviously with the leadership responsibilities that come along with that, does having that player take on an added importance this year with everything in terms of keeping the guys accountable for their behavior off the field and everything else?
I think that depends on the individual. I think that's part of who Isaiah is, Andrew. I think that's something that he'll take on his plate because he likes that responsibility of holding people accountable. I think he looks at himself not only as somebody that leads by how he plays and how he acts, but he really does have a voice with this team and has no problem speaking from the heart about things. And so I do expect him to take on a bigger leadership role, not because of the jersey number. I think that just validates it because of who he is. If he was wearing 41, he wouldn't be any different as far as how he leads this football team.
Brett Friedlander, what you got? Brett, are you there? All right, let's move on to Mike Topher.
Good afternoon, Coach. You referenced last year's game in Winston-Salem, and during that span, you guys obviously had a ton of guys playing that might not normally play due to injury and other things. How much of a difference does that make game planning and going into game week and playing Saturday, having a lot of those guys who've already experienced Wake Forest and what they're about?
Well, it's hard to put experience into a player. You can't do that. And so, last year we were forced to play a lot of freshmen due to those injuries. And so those freshmen now have that in their background to draw from, and that's valuable for them, having played not just Wake Forest, but played in games. We were playing guys out of position in that game last year. We had safeties and nickels playing corner against them. So we don't have to do that now, which is obviously a huge benefit. You can play guys in the position they were recruited to play, that they have the best skill set to play in. And so it's nice to have that. The biggest thing for us in this game in particular, and you saw it in a lot of the openers, there's going to be a lot of rotation. I mean, there's starters, but there's going to be guys that play as much as the starters because of the first game, the tempo, all the things that go with it, and the time lost. There's players that were out not only for an 8-day pause, but they were out for contact tracing for an additional 14 days. And that's going to set them back where we can't expect them to play 80 plays, so we have those things going on within the roster and the depth charts where the depth is going to be definitely something that we have to be able to take advantage of in the rotation, and the depth has to perform well.
Coach Brett's having some mic issues, but he asked me to ask the question. He said, you mentioned the advantage of having played a game already, but is there an advantage to being able to scout Wake from the game it has already played, as well as the unknown of them not having tape to watch of you?
Yeah, I think there is. I do think from a playing standpoint, getting on the field with your team and seeing them play a game is a huge advantage for your own well-being as a coach. The scouting aspect obviously gives us an advantage to have film on who they're replacing their lost starters with and how they're using them. For them not to have film on, how Tim's going to call it or Tony's going to call it obviously helps us. But, those guys had a lot of film as play callers at other places that I'm sure they're using. So, I think it's the personnel piece maybe that is the biggest advantage for the team that hasn't played, because you can see their guys and they can't see ours.
Gary Hahn, you have a question, and then a reminder, Gary, to mute yourself afterwards because you've been popping up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been trying to be very, very quiet. Dave, on your depth chart, you got a position F with Dylan Parham and Dylan Ottenreith there. Is that kind of a hybrid H-back type position? Could you describe that and how it fits in the offense?
Yeah, it is. Our Y is more of our inline player, and our F is going to align in a lot of places, and so our tight ends have a lot of different assignments and alignments within the system. And so that's just a way to categorize them that way.
Corey Smith.
Coach, obviously with the loss of Louis Jesus, there's another change in the position for linebacker. We saw with the release coming out that now Peyton Wilson being listed as the weak side linebacker, but also the Sam linebacker being added as opposed to the Buck linebacker. What was the idea for the change there, and what do you expect from Drake Thomas and Vi Jones going into the season with that new position there?
Sam, Mike, and Will is just how Tony's always done it with his system. So that was regardless of Lewis being here. That's how that would have been. With regard to the lineup, Tony is cross-trained. I've talked about that a lot through fall camp. These guys, and with Drake being able to play multiple spots, and Levi in the rotation that we're going to need because, again, Peyton, Isaiah, Jalen Scott, we expect to play a lot of these kids at linebacker, and there will be a rotation where you see multiple guys in and out so that we can play fast. And we have to be able to match their tempo and also have fresh bodies to do so. And so there will be a lot of rotation at that spot. And we look at where you see or positions guys that, in our opinion, have earned the right to be out there as starters, whether they're out there the first play or not, they're going to play a lot of reps.
Thank you.
Yep.
Joe Giglio.
I got two for you, Dave. You moved Icky to guard. Is that just to get your 5 best blockers on the field at the same time? Or do you think that's a position?
Exactly. Well, Icky was a guard in high school, so it's a position he's played. And for us to be able to get our top 5 out there, we felt that having Tyrone and Icky on the left allowed us to do that. You see Witt and Joe on the right, and then Grant at center. And then behind those guys, we've got some depth, where we can rotate on the O-line. Icky can always bounce back out to left tackle, if Tyrone gets tired. Tim McKay's had a great camp for us too, and he's a guy that we expect to see in the game. So there's some rotation that'll happen again throughout the game, but that was our way to get what we felt like was our most experienced 5 offensive linemen out there.
And then normally you play Wake late in the season. What do you think will be different, maybe mentally, about opening the season with Wake?
Yeah, where we play them is really up to the ACC. The only game that really has been our last game for recent years is UNC. So I think the mindset of opening with a conference game is no different than opening with a Power 5 non-conference game. I think the antennas go up. It counts for more in the guys' opinions and obviously for a league statistics. And so you're going to have that urgency in training camp, that urgency in your conversations you're having about who we're up against. And it's a lot different than opening up with a non-Power 5 team when it comes to the urgency you feel from the players and the staff.
All right, I don't see any hands raised. Does anybody have anything else? All right, I see we got some newbies on here that don't know how to use the little hand raise icon. So Tim Peeler, what you got?
Coach, obviously nothing's been normal for the last 6 months, but how much does getting ready to start this weekend help return some normalcy to the university campus, to the Raleigh community, all of those different things? And what impact does that have on your guys?
Yeah, I think we're starving for a routine. And so this allows us hopefully to have one, just to get into game week and know that we have an opportunity to have back-to-back similar weeks as we move forward. Because we've had the opposite, every day has really been a day where change could happen. And hopefully as we get into these games, if they continue to roll the way they are, you can get into that. This is what your Monday looks like, your Tuesday, your Wednesday, and so on. And the guys can have a routine and the coaches can have a routine in their lives.
And following that, the fact that your guys participated with other athletes last week and talking about the racial unity and other things that are going on that are sort of happening at the same time as the unnormal parts that we're going through right now. Tell me what that did for their mindset.
Well, it's an event that they've been wanting to have for a long time. And I think the ability to have all the student athletes together and do that, it was a great day. It was very well organized by Isaiah and Sack and the other student athletes. I thought there was tremendous thought and expression. The speakers did a phenomenal job of speaking on Pack United and what that stands for, and the awareness, education, and action that they want that platform to have from the student athletes to the campus to the community. And it's really about having empathy and listening and understanding and being there with them through their pain and acknowledging the fact that, all of us can't completely understand what other people go through, but we want to sit there and support them and be next to them with it and help them get through it and support them. And I thought it was a great day. I thought it showed a lot from our student athletes, from our administration, from our support staff, and everyone that was a part of it. And, not everybody's going to understand it, and I think that's okay. I think everyone just has to have empathy right now and understand that there's a lot of people in pain, and it's not about politics. It's about heart. It's about love, and it's about being better people to each other. And that's what this is right now. And I'm very proud to be a part of what NC State stands for.
Larry Sorensen.
Dave, thanks for your time today. Clearly, football coaches don't like flying by the seat of your pants, but this has created so many changes during the last month or so. Has there been anything that really surprised you that turned out to be a bigger issue than you thought it would? And has there been any last-minute phone call that you said, no, I really hadn't thought about that. Yes, we'll deal with it. Something that really surprised you?
I think the biggest challenge in all this has been the contact tracing piece. We're all going through testing the same way. We're all doing the CDC protocols with masks and social distancing and sanitizing things a certain way. But the way people are being contact traced from what we're seeing is different school to school. There isn't really a unified way of doing that. And I think that's been the biggest issue, where you have, in our case, multiple tests a week where guys are completely healthy and passing tests, but are unable to come, work on their skills because somebody that they were around at a certain point in time has symptoms or has a positive test. So that has been the hardest piece to manage. And as you all know, the symptoms for this, there's many, many symptoms. So a guy can wake up with a stuffy nose and all of a sudden his 3 roommates can't come in until that player passes a test. And so you can have a position group be completely healthy and not be able to come to the building for a long period of time. And so that's been challenging. I think that's the hardest part of this for us. And I'm not sure how it is at other campuses, but just the unknown of losing guys to things where they're not in harm's way right now because of that's what's best by CDC protocol and the people on campus. And so you just got to kind of work with what you have and do the best you can that day and continue to work through all the things that go with it. As far as phone calls go, yeah, you get crazy phone calls all the time right now, and you just kind of shake your head and, all right, well, what can we do about it? And I'm just trying to be solution-based. I think it's really easy right now to be negative. with all the things that are going on. That doesn't fix anything. I've told our players, our coaches, we need to take a positive mindset in the face of this adversity. And if we're a team that handles chaos better than other teams, we're giving ourselves an edge. And so that's something we've challenged ourselves here to try to do day in and day out. But it is challenging, it is. And there's constant times where we're holding each other to that standard to let's find a solution. Complaining fixes nothing. And so for us, that's really been where we've been day in and day out, hour to hour with this thing, Larry.
Jonas Pope.
Coach, you guys get so much energy from the crowd at Carter Finley, especially at night, but you guys won't have that this weekend. Does that even matter, like once the ball's kicked off, or have you talked to the guys about making sure they bring their own energy on the sideline to kind of give you guys some kind of edge?
Yeah, well, you definitely have to have that. We've talked about offense, defense, special teams, and then our team, our sideline team has to be great, supporting each other. But yeah, it'll be unique playing in an empty stadium. We do have some pretty sweet cutouts over there. I saw Zach Galifianakis' face, and Bill Cowher was in the crowd yesterday during our mock game. So there's some comedy relief in the stands right now. But it's not having the students there, not having our fans, our parents, that's hard, and to say that we don't get energy from them would be a lie. We do. But we know they're going to be cheering us on from afar, and hopefully this is just a thing that we deal with for 1 week. We don't have another home game in September, so, our fingers are crossed that things can change possibly after
that. Joe Giglio.
Dave, I see an or there with Porter Rooks. I know you were excited about him on signing day. What has he done in camp to impress you to kind of get that or there?
He's just consistent. He makes plays every day. He's the same guy. He's for a freshman, it's hard that first semester, particularly with what they're dealing with here. And Porter's very mature. He learns the offense very quickly. He makes plays. He catches the ball naturally. He's a good route runner. More than anything, he's just earned trust because he's the same every day. And I think that's the biggest thing you look for if you're going to play somebody at a young age. You don't want to not know what you're getting. And for him, it's very consistent performance day in and day out.
2 more questions. Brett Friedlander.
Okay, I think maybe I've worked my mic out. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Outstanding. So I'm sure you've been following what's going on at Virginia Tech with their game being canceled or postponed this week. As a guy who's already had, schedule changes and all, in the back of your mind, do you think about the fact that you're not really sure if a game's going to get played until actually it's game day, or do you tune those kind of things out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know week to week what can happen. I think that's part of why I said this earlier when we moved that game. The league created a schedule that has some bye weeks in it, that has some open end on the backside of things if they have to move games due to other teams' health or circumstances. So, trying not to worry too much about that. I know we went through a similar thing here. They were just later than us with students coming back. So hopefully their return will be similar to ours. I know they were down in the 40s to what could practice. We had a similar situation here, and over a period of 7 days, you get 10 players back a day, and you're back in the hundreds within 6 days. So hopefully they have a quick return, for their team's well-being up there.
But as far as preparing your team, does that play in the back of your mind? Are we going to play this week or not? That kind of thing.
No, I think, obviously seeing Wake play and no things have come out about anything from that game. You feel good about the one coming up, and, we'll deal with the next one when we get to it. I think that's the only way we can approach it right now.
All right, last question, Corey Smith.
Hey, Coach, kind of a 2-part question here for you. First of all, you see Shaheem Battle being listed as an or with Malik Dunlap on the first depth chart. First question for you: what has he done in camp to be able to earn that spot?
At corner, Shaheem and Cecil Powell have been very consistent. Tayshawn is a proven player that's played a lot for us. Malik played a lot last year, so we feel like there's 4 corners there that we can play with and rotate. Aiden White is a freshman who's done a really good job in camp, and is another young guy we're excited about at that position. And so that's really our group that we have right now. And, we're going to get into this week and continue to evaluate it. I think what the OR tells you is there's 3 guys that right now we look at, or 4 guys that we look at as guys that could be in the game at any point in time.
And my second part to that question, is there any update on Chris Ingram? Because obviously we didn't see him listed on the depth chart.
Yeah, so Chris is still not ready to go, and so it's just kind of week to week with Chris. And obviously with the NCAA allowing this really to be a 0 year from an eligibility standpoint, we're just going to have to see how long it takes for Chris to get back. We certainly want him to be healthy and feel good about being out there, and until he feels that way, he won't play.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody.